on, you guys? Listen, before I get into my little 2 cents, make sure you guys follow me. Go ahead and follow me. I will appreciate the follow. So listen, I want to just speak on this very quickly. And this is not, a shade to all women, but it's just rather pointing out the truth about a lot of women. If we're going to be honest and we're going to keep it 100, a lot of women hate the truth when it comes to them. A lot of women hate to acknowledge things about themselves. This is why you hear a lot of men on social media talk about being accountable. Because when it comes to a woman, most of us don't like the truth. We don't like the truth about ourselves. This is why we always shift and push the blame onto men and others. Because when it comes to us, we hate the truth. We hate to accept that we have issues because it would eventually require us to make a change, to do something. And if we're living in a culture of women who are coddled, women who feel entitled, women who are getting their way when it comes to men and everybody else, why would there be any incentive for women to be accountable and make changes? If they're getting their way and they're used to getting their way, it would make sense why so many women hate to acknowledge that they are the problem in a lot of these situations. And really, I'm talking about when it comes to more about relationships, men and women working on themselves and building relationships. A lot of the problem when it comes to building a relationship between a woman and a man is the fact that there are a lot, not all, but there are a lot of women who hate to acknowledge that they are a lot of times the problem. And once again, I think this comes from women being coddled and not being told the truth in many cases, and some just not wanting to accept the truth. So I think a lot of women really believe that the problem is all on the men, when I don't agree with that, because I know that there are a lot of flawed individuals. And I'm not saying that there aren't flawed men. We know that. We talk about that. We've been hearing that, for the longest, that men are the problem. Men need to change. They need to level up. They need to do this, but we never address the women. And now it's to the point where these women really believe that they are perfect and that they don't have any flaws. They don't have any issues, that the men have to do all the changes and they could just sit back and be these passenger princesses where they aren't flawed at all and they don't have to do anything. And that is part of the reason why relationships are failing in this modern society. And this is why I say, listen, a lot of women need to wake up and realize that, baby girl, you are not perfect. You need to work on yourself. You need to look at your flaws. You need to acknowledge that you got some issues. If you want to build a relationship with a man, if you want to be married, if you want to build a family, if you want something solid and stable, you're going to have to wake up and realize that you need to make changes too. It's not all on the men. And so until women realize that and be willing to make the changes, it's going to be a shit show. It's going to be a problem. It's not all on the men to make the changes. Women have to make changes as well. So while I'm not saying that men don't have to make changes, we know that they do. But I'm saying, women, you got to acknowledge that you need to make changes too. And that's where the difficulty lies, because a lot of women hate the truth. You don't want to acknowledge that you are possibly the problem and that you need to work on yourself. And it's not just about how much money you can make and you're a boss chick. That has nothing to do with the changes, the internal changes that you need to make within yourself in order to be good for a man in a relationship. And if you really, really want something that's stable, you're going to have to look inward. You're going to have to look inside yourself, look in the mirror. Baby, y'all going to have to look at yourself and realize the things that y'all have learned, the things that y'all have been indoctrinated to believe about yourself is all wrong. And it's the reason why y'all are struggling in relationships now, because you out here thinking, these niggas ain't this and they ain't that. They need to level up, when the whole time, baby, you aren't leveling up. You are not what a good man would need for a relationship, but you're steadily thinking that you're the prize and you're everything in 10 slices of bread, and that you don't have to make any changes, and it's hurting the very thing that you say you want from a man. The very thing that you're looking for in a relationship, and what's preventing you from getting it is you. Because a man who has worked on himself and the man that you want, you don't qualify for. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's the truth. You need to level up for the type of man that you want. You want a man who makes good money, who wants to take you seriously, a man who wants to provide for you and build a life with you, and want to be, you want this man to be all these things for you. You got to understand that he wants something too, boo. You can't just be ratchet and selfish and self-centered and not understand that a relationship is not about you, but it's about y'all working together. If you can't have, acquire those basic, things for the man that you want, how do you think you're going to get him? If you can't show up for what he needs you to be, why do you think you deserve him? And this is why a lot of these independent boss chicks who don't need a man but want one are single. Because the man that you want requires a different set of things from you. And the things that he requires for you are 9 times out of 10 the things that you don't want to give him. So you have to be able to compromise. You got to understand that it's we, it's not I. That y'all got to work together, that you're not special. You're not, you can't be independently by yourself, thinking independently, but want to be in a relationship with a man, because you're not going to consider him or his needs. You're only considering yours, and you're only looking at what he can provide for you and not what you can provide for him and what you provide for each other. As long as you're thinking independently and it's about you, you're going to have a problem for the man that you want. So yeah, you might get approached by the dudes that you don't want, but for the men that you want and the requirements that they have for you, you got to make some changes. You can't depend on your degrees and all of this stuff and how much you can take care of yourself, because those aren't the qualities that are necessary for the type of man that you want and the type of relationships that you want. So if you want better, you got to do better. That's all I'm saying.